The salt spray from the Mediterranean whipped against my face like 1,000 tiny accusations as I clutched Brinley's hand on that jagged cliffside in Costa Brava. "You're throwing your life away for this." This delusion, Evelyn's voice sliced through the roar of the waves, her words landing like stones in my gut. In that instant, as the sun bled orange into the sea, I realized the woman who'd raised me wasn't just disapproving, she was unraveling the fragile threads of the family I'd fought so hard to claim. It started 6 months earlier, back in the sticky heat of a Brooklyn summer that felt more like a pressure cooker for all the secrets I'd been hiding. I was 28, a freelance graphic designer scraping by in a cramped Bushwick apartment, the kind with exposed brick walls that romanticize poverty but never paid the rent. My name's Brooklyn, yeah, like the borough, a punchline my dad used to love before cancer took him when I was 16. That's when Evelyn entered the picture, swooping in like a storm cloud with her impeccable bob haircut and Wall Street poise. She was my stepmother, the kind who baked perfect apple pies but doled out love in measured portions, always with a side of expectation. "You're a Carter, Brooklyn," she'd say, her voice crisp as autumn leaves. "Act like one." But I wasn't acting like one. Not anymore. Brinley had crashed into my life like a rogue wave at a queer poetry slam in the village. She was 27, a marine biologist from Seattle with freckles like constellations across her nose and a laugh that could disarm a room full of cynics. We'd met when she read a poem about bioluminescent jellyfish, fragile lights in the dark, and I couldn't stop staring at the way her auburn hair caught the dim stage lights. By the end of the night, we were sharing cheap Malbec on a fire escape, her knee brushing mine as she confessed, "I think souls recognize each other before brains catch up." That was it. The spark. We fell fast, in that reckless New York way, late-night ramen runs, stolen kisses in the shadow of the Brooklyn Bridge, her head on my shoulder during indie flicks at the Night Hawk. But Evelyn. She sensed the shift like a hawk spotting prey. "Who's this Brinley?" she'd probe over Sunday brunches at her Upper East Side brownstone, her fork pausing mid-air over poached eggs. I'd mumble something about a friend, but her eyes, those icy blues, would narrow. "Friends don't make you glow like that, Brooklyn. Be careful. Not everyone deserves your heart." She wasn't wrong about the glow. Brinley made me feel seen, not as the orphan kid fumbling through grief, but as a woman with fire in her veins. We talked futures over rooftop sunsets, her dream of studying coral reefs off the Spanish coast, my vague sketches of a life unbound by Evelyn's invisible chains. "Let's get out of here," Brinley said one humid July night, her fingers tracing patterns on my thigh as we lay tangled in sheets that smelled like her lavender shampoo. Spain. Elopement. Just us, the sea, and a promise that sticks. My heart hammered. Elopement. With a woman. In a country where same-sex marriage had been legal for nearly 2 decades, sure, but in Evelyn's world. It was heresy. I said yes anyway. We booked flights to Barcelona on a whim, then rented a tiny Airbnb in a whitewashed village on the Costa Brava, think bougainvillea-draped walls, cobblestone streets echoing with guitar strums, and the endless blue of the sea whispering freedom. It was our American dream exported, impulsive, romantic, a middle finger to the picket fences back home. We arrived in August, the air thick with olive blossoms and possibility. Our ceremony was simple, no frills, just a civil officiant in a linen suit, 2 witnesses from a local tapas bar, a grizzled fisherman named Paco and his wife, Maria, who cried more than we did, and vows we'd scribbled on napkins the night before. "I promise to be your anchor in the storms," Brinley said, her voice steady as she slipped a thin gold band onto my finger, the one engraved with "Luz en la oscuridad," light in the darkness. I echoed her words, my throat tight, the officiant's stamp feeling like a key unlocking a door I'd long bolted shut. We sealed it with a kiss that tasted like salt and sangria, the waves crashing below like applause. For the first time, I wasn't Evelyn's shadow. I was Brooklyn Carter Hayes, wife to the woman who made my pulse sing. But paradise has a way of cracking under pressure. 3 days into our honeymoon, lazy mornings with fresh pan con tomate and afternoons lost in each other's arms, my phone buzzed with a text that turned the world gray. "I'm coming to Spain." We need to talk. No emojis, no warmth. Just the cold efficiency of a boardroom memo. Panic clawed at my chest. How did she know? Brinley, ever the calm in my chaos, squeezed my hand. It's your life, Brooke. Not hers. But as I stared at the screen, the village's charm soured. The sea, once inviting, now mocked me with its vast indifference. Evelyn arrived like a nor'easter, touching down in Girona and renting a sleek Audi that screamed, "I own this coastline." She showed up at our door that evening, heels clicking on the terracotta tiles, a designer scarf fluttering like a flag of surrender she never meant to wave. Brinley answered, all gracious smiles and, "Would you like some gazpacho?" But Evelyn's gaze slid past her like she was furniture. "Brooklyn," she said, stepping inside without invitation, her perfume, something sharp and citrusy, invading the space. This farce. It's not too late to fix it. We sat in the cramped living room, the whitewashed walls closing in, a bottle of Rioja sweating on the table like it knew the storm brewing. Brinley tried to bridge the gap, sharing stories of her research on vanishing sea turtles, but Evelyn's responses were clipped, her eyes fixed on me. "You're 28, Brooklyn. Old enough to know better. Your father, God rest him, would be devastated. This isn't love, it's rebellion. A phase." Her words were velvet-wrapped barbs, each one hooking deeper. I felt small again, the girl in pigtails hiding report cards from the woman who'd promised to fill the void Dad left. Brinley's hand found mine under the table, a lifeline. "With respect, Evelyn, it's not a phase. It's us." But Evelyn's laugh was brittle, like cracking ice. "Us? You're a distraction, dear. Brooklyn needs stability, not experiments." The room tilted. Experiments? That's what she thought of the woman who'd mended my fractures? I stood, chair scraping like a scream. "Get out." My voice was a whisper at first, then steel. "This is my home now. My wife." Evelyn didn't budge. Instead, she leaned forward, her face a mask of calculated sorrow. "Home. This shack. You're squandering your potential for a whim. I raised you better." "Raised me?" The word ignited something feral. "You tolerated me," I shot back, heat rising in my cheeks. "Dad's gone, and you got your trophy life. But you never wanted the messy parts, the queer kid who didn't fit your mold." Brinley gasped softly, but I couldn't stop. The dam had broken. That night, after Evelyn stormed out to her hotel in Bigur, Brinley held me as I sobbed into her shoulder, the sea's lullaby mocking my unraveling. "She's wrong," Brinley murmured, her fingers combing through my hair. "You're my everything." We made love slowly, reclaiming the space she'd tainted, our bodies a quiet rebellion. But sleep evaded me, Evelyn's words looping like a bad reel, delusion, phase, squandering. By dawn, doubt had rooted, a weed in our garden. The next week blurred into a tense standoff. Evelyn refused to leave, booking a villa down the road and insisting on family time. She dragged me to lunches in medieval towns, dissecting my choices over plates of paella. "Think of your future," she'd say, her voice softening just enough to reel me back. "Adoptions are tricky for couples like you. Inheritance laws. What about holidays? Your cousins in Connecticut, they whisper already." Each jab was surgical, exposing insecurities I'd buried deep. Brinley, bless her, played the diplomat, joining us with forced cheer, but I saw the strain in her eyes, the way her smiles faltered when Evelyn dismissed her research as hobbyist nonsense. One afternoon, as we wandered the ruins of a Gothic monastery in Tossa de Mar, Evelyn cornered me amid crumbling stone arches. Brinley was off sketching seashells, giving us space. "I booked you a flight home," Evelyn said, pressing a ticket into my palm. "Alone. Come to your senses. She's poison, leading you astray from who you are." Poison. My stomach churned. The ticket burned like contraband. Part of me, the scared, orphan part, wanted to bolt, to fold back into her world of predictability. But as I crumpled the paper, crumpling years of silence with it, I saw Brinley in the distance, her silhouette against the azure sky, and chose. That choice ignited the real fire. Back at the villa, Evelyn waited, her face thunderous. "You threw it away," she hissed, snatching the shreds from the trash. Brinley walked in then, arms full of market figs, and froze at the tableau. "What's going on?" Evelyn whirled, venom spilling. "She's leaving you, Brinley." Finally seeing sense. Lies, but they landed like truth in the charged air. Brinley's face crumpled, green eyes wide with betrayal, not mine, but Evelyn's audacity. "Brooklyn," she whispered, voice breaking. I crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her close. "Never. To Evelyn, this ends now. Go home. Or we'll make you." For the first time, Evelyn faltered, her poise cracking like old porcelain. She gathered her bag, muttering about ungrateful and ruined legacies, but as she paused at the door, something shifted, a flicker of fear in those blue eyes. "You're breaking my heart, Brooklyn," she said softly, almost broken. Then she was gone, the door clicking shut like a full stop. Relief washed over us, but it was laced with aftershocks. That night, under a canopy of stars, Brinley and I walked the beach, bare feet sinking into cool sand. "I love you," she said, stopping to trace my jaw. "But that woman. She's got hooks in you." I nodded, the weight of it pressing. Evelyn's abuse wasn't fists or screams, it was subtler, a slow erosion of self, whispers that echoed in quiet moments. We'd won the battle, but the war. It lingered, a shadow on our horizon. Little did I know, the shadow was just warming up. 2 days later, a call from back home shattered the fragile peace. My cousin Lila, Evelyn's niece by marriage, spilling tea over a bad connection. "Brooke, your stepmom's been talking to the family. Saying you're unstable. That Brinley's manipulating you. And she mentioned something about contesting your dad's will if you don't straighten up." "Contest the will?" "The one that left me his modest savings, the only tether to him." Rage boiled, but beneath it, a deeper wound, betrayal, pure and familial. We cut our honeymoon short after that, fleeing Costa Brava for the labyrinthine alleys of Barcelona, hoping the city's pulse would drown out the echo of Evelyn's machinations. Brinley drove the rented Fiat like a getaway car, her knuckles white on the wheel, auburn hair whipping in the wind from the open window. "We'll fight this," she vowed, her green eyes fierce as we merged onto the AP7 highway. Together. I wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed like termites in old wood, the kind that hollows you out before you notice the collapse. Barcelona was a bomb and a battlefield. We holed up in a bohemian apartment in the Gracia neighborhood, its balcony overlooking plazas alive with street performers and the scent of churros frying at dawn. By day, we'd lose ourselves in gaudy whimsy, the serpentine spires of Sagrada Familia twisting like our knotted emotions, Park Güell's mosaics mirroring the fractured beauty of us. Brinley dragged me to the beach at Barceloneta, where we'd rent chairs and watch volleyball games, her laughter pulling me from the undertow of my thoughts. "Look," she'd say, pointing to a flock of gulls diving in unison. "That's us, scattered but always finding our way back." Nights were for reckoning. Curled on a threadbare sofa with glasses of vermouth, we'd dissect Evelyn's siege. I'd recount the microaggressions from my teens, the comments when she caught me with a girl at prom, the therapy sessions she'd suggested post-Dad's death, always probing if my grief was manifesting strangely. Brinley listened without judgment, her hand a steady anchor. "That's abuse, Brooke," she'd say gently. "Emotional. Insidious. But it doesn't define you." Her words were American optimism wrapped in Seattle rain, practical, poetic, unyielding. Yet Evelyn's reach extended like Spanish vines, choking from afar. Emails from family trickled in, aunts expressing concern, uncles offering advice, laced with Evelyn's script. Come home, sort this out, one read. Another, marriage is sacred, meant for. Well, you know. The will threat loomed largest, a guillotine over our heads. I hired a lawyer via Zoom, a no-nonsense Catalan woman named Sofia who chain-smoked Virginia Slims and assured me, in Spain, your marriage is ironclad. But stateside. Messy. Your stepmother sounds like a viper in pearls. Sophia wasn't wrong. Evelyn escalated, flying back to New York but waging war through proxies. A package arrived at our door, innocuous manila, postmarked Manhattan, containing letters from my past. High school yearbooks dog-eared to pages of my awkward smiles, a locket from Dad inscribed, "My brave girl," and a note in Evelyn's looping script, "Remember who you were before she stole you." Stole me. As if I were a trinket, not a person. I broke then, really broke, crumpling to the tiled floor as sobs racked me. Brinley found me there, gathering the pieces like sacred relics. "She's trying to erase us," she whispered, kissing my temple. "But we're indelible." That vulnerability forged something unbreakable. We vowed then, amid the debris, to confront her head-on. No more running. Brinley, with her scientist's precision, mapped a plan, returned to the States, faced the family en masse at Thanksgiving, Evelyn's annual command performance. "We show up as us," she said, her voice a clarion. "Married. Unashamed. And we expose the rot." Fear coiled in my belly, but her certainty was contagious, a virus of courage. The flight home was turbulent, mirroring the churn inside. We landed at JFK under slate skies, the city's hum a rude reawakening. My old apartment waited, sublet but dusty, a time capsule of single dom. Brinley dove into it with gusto, hanging fairy lights and stocking the fridge with her weird kombuchas, turning exile into home. But the real homecoming was the drive upstate to Evelyn's estate in the Hudson Valley, rolling hills ablaze with fall foliage, the air crisp as bitten apples. Thanksgiving dawned foggy, the grand dining room a stage set for drama, crystal goblets gleaming under chandeliers, a turkey the size of a small dog at the table's head. 20 relatives milled, cousins from Connecticut, an uncle from Philly, Lila hovering like a nervous sprite. Evelyn held court in a burgundy sheath, her smile a blade sheathed in silk. When Brinley and I entered, hands linked, rings glinting, the room hushed. "Darlings." Evelyn cooed, air kissing my cheeks. "So brave of you to come." Her eyes flicked to Brinley, dismissive as ever. "And you, dear," settling in. The meal unfolded like a minefield. Small talk skated over politics and football, but tension simmered. Brinley charmed, passing the cranberry sauce with stories of Spanish sunsets, drawing laughs from the younger set. I sat rigid, Evelyn's foot nudging mine under the table, a silent warning. Then, post-pie, as coffee steamed, she struck. "Family," she announced, rising like a general. "Brooklyn has news." All eyes on me. My throat closed. This was her script, I could feel it. "Actually," I said, standing, voice steadier than I felt, "Brinley and I do." I pulled her up, our chairs scraping in unison. "We got married in Spain. 3 weeks ago. And we're here to celebrate that, with all of you." Gasps rippled, forks clinking. Lila clapped first, tentative, then a cousin joined. But Evelyn's face was granite. "Married?" she echoed, laugh tinkling like shattered glass. "Oh, Brooklyn. That's quaint. But let's be honest, this is a cry for help. After your father's death, you've been lost." This woman, a nod to Brinley, venomous, preys on vulnerability. The room fractured. Uncle Phil muttered agreement, and Aunt shifted uncomfortably. Brinley's grip tightened, her calm fracturing. "Praise," she said, voice low. "I've loved your stepdaughter through grief you couldn't touch. That's not predation, it's partnership." Evelyn whirled, cheeks flushing. "Partnership. You're a phase, a distraction from real life. Brooklyn deserves heirs, Legacy, not this. Aberration. Aberration. The word detonated. I stepped forward, heart pounding like a war drum. Enough, Evelyn. You've controlled the narrative too long. Dad's will. Contest it if you dare, it's mine, queer or not. The family whispers? Let them. But this ends. Your love is a cage, and I'm done being the bird. Silence blanketed the room, thick as fog. Evelyn's eyes, those unyielding blues, glistened, not with tears, but fury. Ungrateful, she hissed. After everything. Everything. Brinley interjected, her scientist's precision cutting sharp. Like the therapy you forced on her at 17, calling her confusion unnatural. Or the holidays where you paraded eligible men, ignoring her tears. That's not everything, that's erasure. Revelations spilled then, my voice joining the torrent, the locked diaries, the accidental deletions of my coming out emails to Dad before he died. Gasps turned to murmurs, Lila's face paling as she realized her role in the gossip chain. Evelyn staggered back, clutching the table's edge, her empire crumbling in real time. I protected you, she whispered, but it rang hollow, a tyrant's plea. For a heartbeat, pity flickered. I saw the woman who'd buried my father, who'd folded his clothes with trembling hands. But pity curdled to resolve. Protect yourself now, I said softly. We're leaving. We walked out into the dusk, leaves crunching underfoot, Brinley's arm around my waist. The drive back to the city was quiet, the Hudson's lights blurring into streaks of gold. You did it, she murmured, hand on my knee. We did. But victory tasted bittersweet, the family schism was seismic, holidays forever altered. Texts buzzed, support from Lila, silence from others. Evelyn. Radio static. Winter settled like a shroud. We rebuilt in Brooklyn, Brinley commuting to a lab in Jersey while I landed a gig designing for a queer nonprofit. Our apartment bloomed, photos from Spain on the walls, a tiny olive tree from Barcelona on the sill. Love deepened in the mundane, her brewing coffee at dawn, me sketching her asleep, the curve of her shoulder a landscape I'd map forever. But Evelyn's ghost lingered, a chill in December winds. Then, the betrayal that nearly broke us. It came via certified mail in January, legal papers from Evelyn's attorney, petitioning to invalidate Dad's will on grounds of my diminished capacity due to recent emotional instability. Instability. Code for my marriage, my queerness. Enclosed was a deposition, Lila's, tearful but damning. Evelyn said Brooklyn was coerced. I believed her. Betrayed by blood, the kin I'd defended. Rage warred with grief. I confronted Lila over coffee in a midtown Starbucks, her eyes red-rimmed. She twisted it, Lila stammered. Said you were unhappy, manipulated. I wanted to help. Help. It was a knife from a friend. Brinley found me later, curled on our bed, papers clutched like indictments. Breathe, she urged, pulling me into her lap. This isn't the end, it's evidence. Evidence of Evelyn's desperation, yes, but also our resilience. We countersued, Sophia's Spanish firm partnering with a fierce New York litigator named Jordan, non-binary, tattooed, with a laugh like thunder. Court dates loomed, a gauntlet of depositions where Evelyn's cool fractured under cross-exam. I acted in her best interest, she insisted, but her voice wavered when I took the stand, detailing the abuse, the gaslighting, the isolation, the way she'd hoarded Dad's memory as leverage. You didn't protect me, I said, meeting her gaze across the oak-paneled room. You punished me for existing. Brinley testified too, her words a lifeline. Brooklyn's capacity isn't diminished, it's expanded. By love. The judge, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes, nodded through it all. Weeks later, ruling came, will upheld, sanctions against Evelyn for frivolous claims. Vindication, but hollow, the family rift widened, Thanksgivings cancelled, bridges burned. Spring thawed the ice. We celebrated with a small party in our revitalized Bushwick space, queer friends toasting with kava smuggled from Spain, Lila showing up with apologies and a vintage copy of Audre Lorde's essays. "I'm learning," she said, hugging me tight. "Evelyn." A letter arrived, postmarked Connecticut. I was wrong. "Forgive me." No grovel, but a crack in the armor. I filed it away, not ready for olive branches. Summer circled back, 2 years since that cliffside kiss, and we transplanted roots deeper. Brinley's research grant pulled us to a field station in the Balearics, Formentera's turquoise coves, where she'd dive for data on resilient corals, metaphors for us. I'd freelance remotely, my designs now bold queer icons for campaigns that screamed visibility. Spain wasn't escape anymore, it was reclamation, the land where we'd forged our vows now a second skin. Evelyn's letter simmered in my mind like unfinished business. Brinley noticed the distraction during our flight to Ibiza, her head on my shoulder as the plane banked over the Atlantic. "Write her back," she suggested over in-flight pretzels. "Not for absolution, for closure." Closure. The word hung, American as therapy couches and self-help aisles. I nodded, but fear gnawed. What if her wrong was just another hook? Back in New York that fall, I penned the reply on a rainy October afternoon, words flowing like the East River below our window. No accusations, just truths, the pain she'd inflicted, the love she'd withheld, the woman I'd become without her shadow. "I forgive you," I wrote, "not for you, but for me. But understanding. That takes time." I sealed it with a stamp, not tape, permanent as our rings. Her response came swift, a call that lit my phone like a flare. "Brooklyn," her voice cracked, stripped of its polish. I read it. All of it. Pause, a breath like wind through pines. I was scared. Of losing you like I lost him. Of what the world would do to you. Scared. Evelyn Carter, afraid. The revelation tilted my axis. We talked for hours, raw, unscripted. She confessed her own buried grief, a conservative upbringing in Rhode Island, a marriage to dad born of convenience more than fire. "I thought control was love," she admitted. "But you showed me it's surrender." Surrender. The word echoed in our halting reconciliation. She visited that winter, tentative steps over mulled wine at a cozy Williamsburg cafe. Brinley was there, a buffer-turned-bridge, and Evelyn, older now, lines etching her face like maps of regret, extended a hand. "I'm proud," she said to Brinley, voice thick. "Of the life you give her." It wasn't perfect, old habits died hard, her questions still veering conservative. But it was progress, a humanizing, the villain becoming villager. The real change bloomed in spring, at a family gathering, not Thanksgiving, but a neutral brunch in Central Park. Cousins trickled in, Lila bearing mimosas and amends. Evelyn arrived last, bearing not commands but a scrapbook, photos of Dad, of me as a gap-toothed kid, interspersed with prints from our Spanish wedding, swiped from Lila's phone. "Legacies evolve," she said, passing it around. Laughter followed, tentative then full-throated, the air lightening like clouds parting. Brinley and I slipped away mid-meal, wandering to the Bethesda terrace, her arm looped in mine. "Look at us," she marveled, gesturing to the skyline. "From cliffs to this." I pulled her close, kissing her temple, the world narrowing to her warmth. "You changed everything," I whispered. Not Evelyn's abuse, not the betrayals, they were catalysts. Brinley was the alchemy, turning leaden pain to golden resolve. That night, back home, we danced in the kitchen to an old Norah Jones track, her head on my chest, our rings catching the lamplight. Life wasn't fairy tale, no tidy bows, just the messy beauty of endurance. Evelyn faded into ally, her calls now laced with questions about Brinley's dives, tentative invitations to her Connecticut garden. The will stayed mine, untouched, a quiet victory. Years layered on, as they do in that relentless American churn. We adopted a rescue mutt named Soul, Spanish for son, who bounded through our growing life. Brinley's book on ocean resilience hit shelves, dedicated to Brooklyn, my deepest current. I illustrated the cover, two figures entwined against a stormy sea, emerging whole. Evelyn reviewed it glowingly for her book club, a far cry from her old dismissals. One August, we returned to Costa Brava, not for honeymoon echoes, but anniversary. The same cliffside villa, Bougainvillea wilder now. We stood on the balcony at sunset, soul at our feet, the Mediterranean a symphony below. Remember? Brinley asked, her green eyes dancing. How could I forget? The abuse, the fight, the forgiveness, it all converged here, a tapestry woven from threads of pain and passion. Evelyn joined us, uninvited but welcomed, her silver hair loose for once, scarf traded for a sun hat. She raised a glass of cava, voice steady. To changes, she toasted. We clinked, the sound pure as bells. No grand speeches, just presence, the stepmother who'd once wielded words like weapons now silent witness to our joy. As dusk deepened, Brinley and I slipped away to the beach, toes in surf, her laughter mingling with the tide. I love you, I said, simple as breath. Always. She turned, auburn waves haloed by fading light, and smiled, that smile that had hooked me years ago. And I you. Through every storm. In the end, it wasn't the abuse that defined us, nor the betrayal's sting. It was the love that endured, human and flawed, a quiet revolution against the tides. We walked into the waves, hand in hand, the horizon endless as hope. Changed. Utterly. And gloriously so.